Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book Money Skills for Teens. This is an absolutely brilliant, beginner-friendly handbook by Fernie Bow. In this explainer, we're going to unpack its core message, which is actually super simple. Money is a tool, not a mystery. Bow has put together an incredibly practical guide aimed at demystifying personal finance, completely ditching the overwhelming jargon to help the next generation avoid those massive financial pitfalls we've all seen. So let's jump right in.
You know, Fern Boa's core realization as a parent was pretty profound. She was watching her own kids grow up and just noticed this massive, glaring education gap. Our schools do a fantastic job teaching geometry and chemistry, sure, but they leave young adults completely unprepared for the real world when it comes to everyday money management. It's a frustrating origin story, and I'm sure it's one that deeply resonates with so many parents and educators watching this explainer right now.
To actually fix that gap, Bow packs over 40 practical financial skills into her book. Today, we're covering 5 critical pillars: the education gap, spending psychology, the digital bank, mastering debt, and finally, the compound interest superpower.
Okay, kicking things off with pillar number 1, the education gap, and exactly why it matters right now.
The reality we're dealing with is that teens today face complex financial decisions way earlier than any previous generation ever did. We aren't just talking about a weekend mall trip anymore with $10 in your pocket. No, we're talking about navigating side hustles, the gig economy, and relentless social media influence before they even walk across the high school graduation stage. Money isn't just coins in a piggy bank, it's entirely digital. Teens are literally bombarded by instant gratification culture everywhere they look. You've got tap-to-pay apps that make spending feel totally frictionless, buy now, pay later traps, and those so-called TikTok finfluencers pushing wild crypto and forex trends. Because money has become this abstract, almost invisible concept, having a straightforward, jargon-free guide like Bow's is just absolutely essential to cut through all that noise.
Moving right along to section 2, spending psychology, getting to know your habits.
Bow does something really smart here. She forces readers to look in the mirror before they do a single ounce of math. Because think about it, budgeting is completely useless if you don't understand the emotional drivers behind your spending. So let me ask you directly, what is your spending personality? Are you a tapper and forget it spender who just taps your phone without ever checking the balance? Or are you more of a money under the mattress saver who is terrified to spend a single dime? Look, we all have those embarrassing stories about what we blew our very first paychecks on, right? Well, understanding exactly why you did that is step 1.
Bow actually breaks this down into 5 distinct profiles. First, you have the impulse buyer, the one grabbing things at the checkout line. Then, the FOMO spender, who buys things just to keep up with friends. There's the emotional shopper, who spends cash to feel better after a tough day. We've got the bargain hunter, who buys things they don't even need just because, hey, it's on sale. And finally, the reluctant spender, who hoards cash purely out of anxiety. Identifying your specific type is a crucial life skill. Why? Because it helps you build personal guardrails to prevent your most common, emotionally driven money mistakes.
And once you know your personal habits, you can apply Bow's really powerful purchasing framework, which is assessing value versus upfront price. The crucial point here is teaching teens to look past the cheap sticker price. Say you find a super cheap car. It might have a low upfront price, but what is the long-term economic impact of that purchase? When you actually factor in the hidden costs of constant maintenance, much higher car insurance, and having to buy replacement parts down the road, the actual value is terrible. Teaching kids to value long-term quality over instant gratification is a total game changer.
That brings us to section 3, the digital bank, demystifying invisible money.
Like we touched on earlier, we live in an era where currency has evolved from paper into just a flashing number on a smartphone screen. And because digital money feels completely invisible, it makes it way too easy to overspend. You just don't feel that physical sting of handing over a crisp $20 bill anymore. To avoid those sneaky hidden bank fees and completely blown budgets, digital money requires highly intentional tracking. You literally cannot just assume you have money just because your card hasn't been declined yet.
To combat this digital drift, Bow lays out a highly actionable, hands-on prompt for teens to regain control. She calls it the digital financial cleanse. It's just 3 simple steps. First, audit your tap-to-pay apps. Second, check all those monthly subscriptions. And third, review any other recurring charges. It is crazy how easy it is for a teenager to sign up for 5 different streaming services and completely forget they are bleeding $20, $30, or $40 every single month.
Now, to turn this cleanse into a lasting habit, she introduces the concept of the finance date. This means setting a strict, non-negotiable monthly calendar reminder to actually sit down and review your bank statements line by line. And this isn't just about spotting hidden fees, though that's important. Bo places a huge emphasis on digital safety here. A finance date is exactly when you should audit your app privacy settings to prevent identity theft, making sure you aren't falling victim to the phishing attempts and social media scams that so heavily target Gen Z right now.
All right, Section 4, Mastering Debt and the Myth of Credit.
Bo brilliantly frames your credit score as a financial adult GPA. It's this number that literally dictates whether you can rent an apartment or buy a car. And a major part of mastering this GPA is understanding the crucial difference between constructive debt and toxic debt. Constructive debt is something that ultimately helps you build your life, like financing a reliable car so you can commute to a better paying job. Toxic debt, on the exact other hand, is using high-interest retail credit cards to buy fast fashion or fund weekend trips with friends. One builds your foundation, the other acts as a heavy anchor just holding you back.
If I could go back in time and give my younger self one piece of advice from this entire book, it would absolutely be this simple rule right here. A credit card isn't an emergency fund. Bo emphasizes the massive, massive risks involved if a teen doesn't treat that piece of plastic exactly like actual cash. Yes, building credit safely is incredibly important, but carrying a revolving balance on a high-interest card, that is a financial trap that can literally take years to escape.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, the compound interest superpower. Let's talk about building wealth.
When it comes to building wealth, a teenager's biggest advantage isn't capital, it's time. Bo uses a really specific, eye-opening example to show how starting to invest just $20 a month during your teenage years can snowball into serious long-term wealth. You do not need a massive six-figure salary to start investing, you just need consistency and decades of time ahead of you.
That magical snowball effect happens because of compound interest. Now, the technical textbook definition is that it's the interest on a deposit calculated based on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. Yawn, right? Let's translate that into plain English. It's basically free money that your money makes while you sleep. The interest you earn starts earning its own interest, and over time, that growth curve goes entirely vertical. It is, without a doubt, the ultimate superpower for a teenager. So, having unpacked all these incredible lessons from Vern Bo, I want to leave you with a provocative final challenge for today. Are you brave enough to do a digital subscription audit today? Seriously, log into your bank right now, look at the last 30 days, and cancel those invisible drains on your wealth. Take control of your money before it takes control of you. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.